Hey, what's up everyone? I've thought a lot about how we manage to create and sustain habits in our life, and I think I've managed to boil it down to 4 key points. It's something I like to call the 4 R's of habit change. This is our first point, and it's the first point because it's our most important. If we can't commit a reason to change, then change is unlikely to occur. Try and ask yourself, why do you want to make this change? Will this change have a positive influence on my life? And what am I actually trying to achieve here? These questions will help us recognize whether this behavior aligns with our true values and goals, which will eventually determine whether this behavior is continued in the future. Think back on anything you've tried to do consistently and just never stuck with. Like for example, earlier in the year, I tried to learn how to code. And while yes, I can acknowledge it's a very useful skill to have, I never stuck with it. And that's mainly because I couldn't link it to my long-term goals or find any positive influence that it would have in my life at that moment. However, if you're struggling to answer these questions, instead ask yourself, is my current behavior helping me to move towards my goals? If the answer is yes, then you can probably skip this step. But if the answer is no, then perhaps give yourself a little bit more time to think about it. Our second point involves thinking about ways that we can make the whole process easier. One of the biggest mistakes that I think most people make is that they make changes solely focusing on the output without giving a thought to the processes that actually help make it happen. Which is why it's so important to recognize even the smallest thing that can improve the likelihood of sticking to your habit. This can be as simple as having your clothes organized next to your bed, so when you wake up to go to the gym in the morning, you don't have to think about deciding what to wear. Earlier in the year, when I was starting to develop the habit of writing 3 positive things that happened to me throughout the day, something I implemented was that I put an alarm on for 9 o'clock every night. Now, I cannot tell you the countless amount of times that I just downright forgot about writing my positives at the end of the day. And if it wasn't for that alarm going off at 9 o'clock every single night for about 3 months, I can guarantee you there is absolutely no chance that I will be still writing them today. Our goal with this is to minimize the initial friction of starting so that we're not discouraged immediately before seeing any results. Now, if you're enjoying the video and you've got an extra 2 seconds to spare, it would mean so much to me if you could like and subscribe. Thank you. This is arguably the hardest part, and it's at this point where the answers to the questions in the first step are tested. I wish I could give you all some magic time frame at which point I could say that your habits will now be stuck and from this day onwards they'll be automatic. Unfortunately, that time frame doesn't exist. The time it takes for a habit to be formed can be anywhere between 50 to 500 days. That's why during this time, it can be really beneficial to use something like a habit tracker or even grab a friend just to help keep you a little bit more accountable. Try not to be discouraged from missing days either. Accept that they're bound to happen and that they're okay. The important thing here to remember is that we're not aiming for perfection, we're just aiming for progress. And finally, our last step aims to make sure that these changes are actually providing benefit to our lives. We want to make sure that these habits will build positivity. So checking in about every 2 weeks is a really good way of measuring the impact that these changes are having. A good way I'd like to assess this is to try and notice how you feel on the days when you do the behavior versus the days when you don't. And then if you think these thoughts are going to be beneficial and help to encourage you to continue for the weeks ahead, write them down. And just remember, it's not about hitting your mark every single day. It's about being aware of what's required to reach your goals and knowing that every day you try, you make progress. Stick to it, everyone. Forming habits can be hard, but in the long run, they're definitely worth it. You'll get there. If you found this video valuable, then please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe down the bottom. Feel free to leave a comment down below about any habits that you're working on at the moment, because I love to see what you guys are getting up to. And until next time, see you. And finally, our last step here is to make sure that, whoa, why is it a bit echoey in here now? Go!